You walk into any pharmacy or a gym or honestly even just a regular grocery store right now, and you are immediately confronted by it. The wall of wellness.
Oh, yeah. It is everywhere.
Right. On one side, you have these neat, orderly rows of daily multivitamins, promising this kind of quiet, responsible health.
And then you turn the corner, and it's a totally different vibe.
Exactly. On the other side, you have those massive neon-colored tubs of pre-workout powders, the ones with the really aggressive fonts promising explosive energy and peak physical performance.
Yeah, the marketing is incredibly intense.
It is, and we interact with this stuff every single day. We buy it, we drink it, we give it to our kids. But right now, there's roughly a 1 in 4 chance that the health supplement you just swallowed contains an undeclared substance.
And that is a really terrifying statistic.
It's mind-blowing, something that could severely damage your body, or, if you're an athlete, entirely end your career.
Okay, let's unpack
You
this.
really need to, because the scale of this multi-billion-dollar bioeconomy is just staggering. Yeah, and we want to arm you, the listener, with the actual facts today so you can navigate this space safely.
Because the core promise is incredibly seductive.
Right.
Vitality in a convenient little capsule. But diving into the clinical data, the historical analyses, and the sports medicine consensus statements reveals a landscape that operates, honestly, far more like the Wild West than a regulated medical field.
Which is exactly why we are cutting right through that billion-dollar marketing hype today. We're going to dig into the hidden history of these products, those shocking contamination rates, and the very real health risks that are just hiding in plain sight on those shelves.
It's an industry built a lot less on proven biology and far more on our modern anxieties regarding our own health.
Yeah, totally. And to understand how we arrived at a point where we feel compelled to take a pill for literally everything, we have to look back at how the whole concept of the magic pill evolved in the first place.
Right. Because long before we had, isolated chemicals in plastic tubs, humanity was already searching for ways to optimize the body.
People have always wanted an edge.
Exactly. If you look at ancient Egypt, for example, workers and soldiers were given massive amounts of garlic and onions.
Wait, really? Just straight garlic?
Yeah, because the allium compounds in those plants were believed to increase endurance and resistance to disease.
Oh, that makes sense.
And in traditional Chinese medicine, you see the long-term use of formulas featuring ginseng and medicinal mushrooms to depernify qi. And even in South Asia, Ayurveda developed Rasayana therapies.
Rasayana.
Yeah, using botanicals like ashwagandha as rejuvenating anti-aging tonics. So the desire has always been there.
But those ancient approaches, they seem so fundamentally different from what we do today. They were using whole foods and plants to balance systemic energy.
Right, they weren't talking about like milligrams of ascorbic acid.
Exactly. The conceptual framework was entirely holistic. So when did we make the jump to the modern vitamin aisle?
Well, the massive paradigm shift happened when science started to actually isolate specific invisible compounds. And a really vital turning point for that was in 1747.
Okay, what happened then?
A Scottish physician named James Lind figured out that citrus fruits prevented scurvy in sailors.
Which, seems like super basic nutrition to us now. But at the time, that discovery must have completely fractured how they viewed human biology.
Oh, it changed everything. I mean, before Lind, diseases were largely attributed to bad air or humors or even moral failings.
Moral failings causing scurvy. Wow.
Yeah. So discovering that a specific unseen factor in a lime could prevent a horrifying disease meant that health was biochemical. The body was a machine, and it could suffer mechanical failures simply because it was missing a specific invisible part.
And once you believe the body is a machine that just needs the right parts, the race is on to isolate those parts.
Precisely. And if we fast forward a bit to 1912, Casimir Funk coins the term vitamins.
Vitamins with an E at the end, right?
Right, meaning vital amines, because he actually mistakenly thought they were all amino acids.
Ah, I didn't know that. But that naming convention really locked in the modern paradigm, didn't it?
It did. If a disease is caused by a missing invisible factor, you don't need the whole plant anymore. You can isolate the factor, extract it, and deliver it in a concentrated, hyper-efficient form.
It laid the foundation for the supplement as a discrete, measurable unit of health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as we moved into the 20th century, that scientific discovery collided with industrialization. Like during World War II, governments realized that widespread nutrient deficiencies were a strategic military weakness.
Because they needed healthy soldiers.
Right. So they started fortifying foods on an industrial scale.
And out of that post-war industrial boom, we start seeing commercial products targeting everyday consumers. Like, I'm thinking of things like Geritol in the 1950s.
Yes, the classic iron and B vitamin tonic.
Yeah, which was so heavily marketed. That really feels like the era where the line between a necessary medical intervention and a daily consumer habit just permanently blurred.
It absolutely did. And regulatory agencies really struggled to figure out how to classify these products. But the absolute watershed moment, the event that created the landscape we live in today, was in 1994.
The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act in the US, right?
Yes, commonly known as DSHEA.
Right. So instead of a company having to prove their new pill is completely safe and effective before they put it on a store shelf, DSHEA basically categorized supplements as a subcategory of food.
And that is the crucial pivot. It flipped the burden of proof entirely.
Meaning what exactly?
Under DSHEA, authorities largely have to prove a product is actively dangerous after it is already on the market in order to remove it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, rather than the manufacturer proving it is safe before selling it. It severely limited pre-market approval and sparked just an unprecedented commercial gold rush.
It's as if we took the ancient Greek concept of food as medicine, stripped away all the actual food, and just left the medicine, totally convinced we could biohack our way to health without any oversight.
That's a great way to put it. And what's fascinating here is the sociology of this shift, which is just as revealing as the chemistry. Well, you see this very clearly in post-communist societies in Eastern Europe after 1989. Under state socialism, healthcare and drug access were centrally controlled by the government.
Right, the state handled all of that.
But when those systems collapsed and Western markets flooded in, purchasing imported Western supplements became a highly visible symbol of the new era.
Wait, so buying a bottle of vitamin C literally became a political statement about capitalism.
It really did. It represented a fundamental shift from collective, state-run well-being to a system where the individual is solely responsible for their own health.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the modern supplement industry thrives on this background anxiety today. It feeds the narrative that the system won't take care of you, that the modern food supply is broken, and therefore you must optimize and protect yourself.
That drive for individualized self-protection naturally leads us into how people actually use these products today. Like, let's look at the illusion of the harmless everyday vitamin.
Right, the stuff everyone has in their medicine cabinet.
Yeah, because most people assume that taking a multivitamin is just responsible behavior.
Wait, but isn't taking a daily multivitamin just good insurance for your body? If I don't eat enough spinach today, shouldn't I just pop an iron pill just in case?
See, if we connect this to the bigger picture, treating concentrated micronutrients as insurance is a really dangerous misconception.
Really? Even just basic vitamins?
Yes. The medical perspective across our sources is very clear here. Supplements like iron, vitamin D, or calcium are highly effective interventions for correcting medically diagnosed deficiencies.
Keyword being diagnosed.
Exactly. They are targeted tools for those deficiencies. They are not daily safety nets. Above certain physiological thresholds, these supposedly harmless vitamins become actively toxic.
We should dig into the mechanics of that toxicity because I think a lot of people assume that whatever the body doesn't need, it just harmlessly flushes out in the urine.
And that is only partially true, mostly just for water-soluble vitamins. But even then, there are strict limits.
Like with vitamin C. Right. People routinely take massive doses, sometimes thousands of milligrams, to ward off a cold. But the body metabolizes excess vitamin C into a compound called oxalate.
Okay, and what does oxalate do?
Well, if you are prone to kidney stones, that oxalate binds with calcium in your urinary tract to form solid crystals. So you are actively increasing your risk of kidney stones by just trying to prevent a minor cold.
Oh man, that is definitely not harmless. And the risk is much steeper with fat-soluble vitamins, right? Like A and D, because your body doesn't just flush out the excess, it stores them in your tissues.
Exactly. High, unmonitored doses of vitamin D can lead to a condition called hypercalcemia.
Hypercalcemia meaning too much calcium.
Yes. The vitamin essentially causes your body to absorb way too much calcium from your diet, and that calcium builds up in your blood. Over time, it can actually calcify your soft tissues and severely damage your kidneys.
So you're basically putting rocks where rocks shouldn't be.
That's a very visceral way to describe it, but yes.
Yeah. And what about iron? Because iron seems to be one of the most common yet riskiest things people self-prescribe, especially active people who feel fatigued and just guess that they're anemic.
Taking unnecessary iron is basically playing with fire. Excess iron in the body creates oxidative stress.
What does that look like at a cellular level?
Think of it like a rusting mechanism inside your cells. It generates free radicals that act like sparks from a grinding wheel, damaging your DNA and cellular structures.
Wow. Just from taking an over-the-counter iron pill.
Right. And this is exceptionally dangerous for individuals with an underlying genetic condition called hemochromatosis.
I've heard of that. That's when people naturally hoard iron from their food, right?
Correct. If they add an iron supplement on top of that without knowing they have the gene, they accelerate that internal rusting, which leads directly to liver damage, cirrhosis, and even heart failure.
That is terrifying. But even if you avoid that direct toxicity, the sources heavily emphasize the danger of what they call the masking effect.
Yes, the masking effect is a huge issue in the medical community. Self-supplementation frequently delays proper medical diagnosis.
Because you're just treating a symptom without knowing the cause.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
you are chronically exhausted and you start, injecting B vitamins or taking iron pills, you might feel a mild temporary stimulant effect,
Yeah.
but you are just putting tape over the dashboard warning light.
Right.
That profound fatigue could be the early presentation of an autoimmune issue like celiac disease, a severe infection, or even clinical depression.
And in the athletic world, that masking effect usually hides something called REDS, right? Relative energy deficiency in sport.
Yes, RBDS is incredibly common and very dangerous.
And that happens when an athlete simply isn't consuming enough calories to support the physical trauma of their training load. They're just not eating enough.
And the body responds to that fuel shortage by shutting down non-essential functions. Bone density drops, reproductive hormones crash, and the immune system weakens.
So if an athlete tries to fix that systemic exhaustion with, like, a caffeine pill and a B vitamin complex, instead of addressing the fact that they are fundamentally starving.
They are setting themselves up for a catastrophic stress fracture or worse.
Yeah. And we see that same nutritional displacement with everyday sports foods, too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the highly marketed carbohydrate gels, the neon sports drinks, the protein bars.
Oh, absolutely. They are marketed as vital athletic fuel, but they frequently backfire.
Backfire how? Like mechanically?
Yes, mechanically.
Yeah.
When you ingest a heavy concentrated sugar load from a sports gel outside of a very intense training window, it creates high osmolality in the gut.
Okay, what does that mean for the person eating it?
It means your intestine has to pull water out of your bloodstream and into your digestive tract just to dilute that intense sugar concentration.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It is. That rapid fluid shift causes violent cramping, nausea, and severe diarrhea.
Yikes. Not exactly peak performance.
No. Furthermore, relying on protein shakes and engineered bars displaces nutrient-dense whole foods. You might hit your protein metric for the day, but you are starving your gut microbiome of the complex fiber and phytochemicals required for long-term health.
It's all connected. And the natural escalation of this is fascinating to me. We start by using vitamins to fix basic health anxieties, but human ambition always pushes further.
It always does.
Athletes aren't just looking for basic health. They're actively chasing a competitive edge, trying to push past biological limits. Which takes us into the highly lucrative, high-stakes world of performance-enhancing supplements, or the ergogenic gray zone.
And out of the thousands of products promising explosive power and endless stamina, the sports science consensus identifies a remarkably small circle of supplements that actually have robust, evidence-based benefits.
They call them Group A aids, right?
Yes, Group A aids, the primary ones are caffeine, creatine, dietary nitrate, beta-alanine, and sodium bicarbonate.
That is a very short list compared to what's on the shelves. Let's look at how a couple of those actually work, starting with dietary nitrate, which athletes usually take in the form of concentrated beetroot juice.
The mechanism there is vasodilation. The nitrates in the beetroot juice convert into nitric oxide in your body, which signals the smooth muscles in your blood vessels to relax and widen.
So you are essentially widening the pipes so that more oxygen-rich blood can be delivered to working muscles during an endurance event.
Exactly. It's a proven physiological effect.
Okay, what about beta-alanine? Because that one is in almost every pre-workout on the market.
It is. It acts as an intracellular buffer, helping to soak up the acid that builds up in your muscles during high-intensity efforts.
Like during a heavy deadlift or a 400-meter sprint?
Right. But it comes with a bizarre acute sif effect called paresthesia.
Oh, the tingling thing.
Yes. It alters nerve signaling, causing your skin, particularly on your face and hands, to tingle or even feel like it's burning.
It's highly uncomfortable.
It really is.
And then there is sodium bicarbonate, Which is funny because most listeners have this in their kitchen right now. It's literally just baking soda. But what is it actually doing in an elite athlete's body?
It works by aggressively alkalizing the blood. It turns your bloodstream into a chemical sponge that pulls burning lactic acid out of the muscle tissue faster.
But the mechanism comes with a massive penalty, doesn't it?
A huge penalty.
Yeah.
When you swallow a large dose of baking soda, it reacts violently with your stomach acid, generating huge amounts of carbon dioxide gas.
So you might gain a fractional improvement in a rowing sprint, but you risk explosive, race-ending gastrointestinal distress right on the starting line.
Exactly. Diarrhea, severe bloating, it's notoriously risky.
So here's where it gets really interesting. If beta-alanine makes your face tingle uncomfortably and baking soda wrecks your digestive system, why on earth are elite athletes subjecting themselves to this?
It comes down to the psychology of marginal gains.
Meaning those tiny 1% improvements?
Yes. At the elite level of sport, the physical and genetic differences between the person who wins gold and the person who finishes fourth are microscopic. A 1% improvement in mechanical efficiency is a career-defining margin.
Right. So for an Olympian, suffering through severe nausea for a fraction of a second is a completely rational trade-off.
Exactly. The problem, though, is that the high school cross-country runner or the guy at the local gym adopts that exact same mindset.
Oh, I see that all the time.
They believe they need to suffer through side effects for 1% gain when their actual foundation, like their training and sleep, is crumbling. It breeds a dangerous pill for every problem mentality.
Because it is significantly easier to buy a $60 tub of powder than it is to consistently sleep 8 hours a night and eat fibrous vegetables for years.
Precisely. And the supplement industry thrives on providing that shortcut, which distracts athletes from what actually matters.
And that's why the marketing constantly pushes into what the research calls the emerging evidence category.
Right, the natural herbs and botanicals promoted as recovery aids, where the science is incredibly mixed and murky.
Tart cherry juice is a prime example of that. It's rich in polyphenols and heavily pushed for reducing muscle soreness. But the protocols require drinking such massive quantities of juice that the huge caloric load can completely disrupt an athlete's energy balance.
It's just not practical. And a more concerning example in that emerging category is the widespread use of herbal adaptogens, like ashwagandha.
Which is everywhere now, marketed heavily for stress reduction.
Yes, but herbal products are complex biological agents. They aren't just inert flavors. The clinical data shows that ashwagandha can significantly alter liver enzymes, specifically something called the CYP450 pathway.
Okay, wait. How does taking a natural stress herb end up messing with someone's prescription medication?
Well, think of the CYP450 pathway as a highly regulated chemical assembly line in your liver that is responsible for breaking down medications. Ashwagandha acts like a rogue manager that suddenly alters the speed of that assembly line. If it speeds the line up, your prescription antidepressant or asthma inhaler gets broken down and eliminated before it can even reach your brain or lungs.
So your medicine just stops working.
Right. And if it slows the line down, your daily medication, say a birth control pill, could accumulate in your bloodstream to toxic levels.
Just from taking a stress supplement. That is wild. And this relentless search for these physical shortcuts, it creates a massive economic vacuum. And that vacuum has been filled by incredibly shady manufacturing practices.
Which leads us directly into the darkest, most dangerous corner of our deep dive today.
The systemic contamination of the supplement supply chain.
The empirical data on this isn't just surprising, it genuinely represents a public health crisis. A major meta-analysis examining over 3,000 dietary supplements found that approximately 28% of those products contain substances that were not declared on the label.
Over a quarter of all products tested.
Yes. And when you look at high-risk categories, the aggressive pre-workouts, the weight loss pills, the muscle builders, other studies reveal contamination rates up to 58%.
It sounds like buying a pre-workout powder online is essentially playing Russian roulette with your morning smoothie. You think you're getting caffeine, but you might be getting something else entirely.
You are literally flipping a coin on whether the label matches the powder.
And we aren't talking about, like, extra vitamin C sneaking into the batch, right? What exactly are researchers finding in these tubs?
They are finding potent pharmaceutical drugs. They routinely find anabolic steroids and prohormones.
Quick question, what makes a prohormone different from a standard steroid?
A prohormone is a chemical precursor. It essentially acts as a legal loophole. On the shelf, the chemical structure is slightly different from a banned anabolic steroid, which sometimes allows it to evade immediate regulatory flags.
Ah, sneaky.
Very. But once you ingest it, your body's enzymes cleave off certain molecules, converting it directly into an active, potent anabolic steroid inside your bloodstream.
So it carries all the same risks of heart disease and liver toxicity.
Exactly. And researchers are also finding entirely withdrawn illegal drugs like sibutramine. That was an appetite suppressant that was pulled from the global market because it caused heart attacks and strokes.
And people are just accidentally drinking this before hitting the gym, but it goes beyond pharmaceutical spiking, too. The environmental contamination is terrifying. The sources show that between 79% and 88% of terrestrial plant and microalgae products contain measurable levels of heavy metals.
Yes. Lead, cadmium, mercury. Think of your green superfood blends, your spirulina, your herbal powders.
How does that even happen?
The mechanism there is bioaccumulation. Plants naturally absorb heavy metals from industrial runoff in the soil. When manufacturers harvest, dry, and hyperconcentrate those plants into a powder, they also concentrate the lead.
Oh, I see.
So when a young athlete drinks that green smoothie every single morning for 5 years, those heavy metals don't wash out. They slowly accumulate in the liver, kidneys, and brain tissue, creating a cumulative, lifelong toxic burden.
And for competitive athletes subject to drug testing, this Wild West reality literally ends careers. The World Anti-Doping Agency, or WA, operates on a principle called strict liability.
Yes, strict liability is a very harsh reality for athletes.
It is exactly like getting a speeding ticket while driving a borrowed car.
Yeah.
The police officer does not care if your friend tuned the engine to run faster without telling you. You were behind the wheel, you are responsible.
Right. Under strict liability, the athlete is 100% responsible for any substance found in their body. Pleading that a steroid was hidden in a mislabeled, over-the-counter vitamin does not prevent a career-ending 4-year ban.
I didn't know, or it wasn't on the label, just doesn't fly.
It doesn't. And the data estimates that up to 8.8% of all doping sanctions worldwide are directly linked to these contaminated, supposedly safe supplements.
And the systemic root cause of this chaos brings us right back to DSHEA and the economics of the industry. Because supplements are regulated like food, factories frequently use shared manufacturing lines.
Exactly. A facility might mix a batch of legal vitamin D immediately after mixing a batch of pro-hormones without running a full pharmaceutical-grade sterilization on the vats.
So cross-contamination is a huge factor.
It is. But we must also acknowledge intentional economic spiking.
Intentional, like they do it on purpose.
Yes. If a manufacturer sneaks a cheap synthetic stimulant into a pre-workout powder, the consumer feels an immediate, aggressive rush of energy. The consumer assumes the product is highly effective, leaves a 5-star review, and buys it again.
Oh, wow.
This raises an important question about how a completely unregulated bioeconomy passes the physical, legal, and financial risk entirely onto the consumer, and specifically onto vulnerable young athletes.
Yeah, we've laid out the terrifying reality of hidden steroids, kidney damage, and lead accumulation. So, what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this right now, who just wants to keep their teenager safe, or maybe just wants a safe energy boost for their 5K run? How do we protect ourselves?
The consensus statements provide very specific, actionable advice for parents, coaches, doctors, everyone. And it revolves entirely around establishing a food-first culture.
Food first. Meaning what, in practice?
It means normalizing the unglamorous basics. Meal planning, calculating energy availability, and prioritizing sleep hygiene and recovery must be thoroughly established before anyone considers opening a pill bottle.
So if an athlete is chronically fatigued, you look at their dinner plate and their mattress first.
Exactly. But if a supplement is genuinely medically necessary, say a blood test confirms you are actually anemic, risk mitigation is critical.
Right. How do we navigate the store shelves safely?
The guidance says you should aggressively favor single-ingredient products over complex proprietary blends.
Oh, that makes sense.
If you need iron, buy plain iron. Do not buy the Warrior Immune Matrix that contains 20 different obscure herbs.
Because the mathematics of contamination are pretty simple, right? The more ingredients sourced from different global facilities, the exponentially higher the risk of cross-contamination.
Precisely. You must also rely on third-party testing. Look for specific batch-tested certifications on the bottle, like Informed Sport or NSF Certified for Sport.
What are those organizations actually doing that the FDA isn't?
They are independent private laboratories that batch test the specific lots of a product for a wide range of banned substances and heavy metals before they hit the shelf.
So they're checking the actual powder.
Yes, it does not reduce the risk to zero because testing every single pill is impossible, but it dramatically lowers the probability of inadvertent doping or poisoning.
We also need to teach younger athletes to spot the marketing red flags, right? Like if a product claims to be a legal steroid, a testosterone booster, or a fat shredder, just leave it on the shelf.
The more aggressive the font and the promises, the higher the clinical correlation with contamination.
And for parents, simple household rules can go a long way, like treating energy drinks and pre-workouts with the same caution you would treat any powerful, risky stimulant. They are not soft drinks.
Setting a firm household rule of no pre-workout stimulants for minors is honestly the safest default. It requires a fundamental shift in dialogue.
Meaning reframing how we talk about this stuff entirely.
Right. Instead of asking, what can I take to enhance myself?
Right.
Coaches and doctors need to guide patients to ask, what fundamental resource is my body lacking right now? It's about reframing supplements from being a harmless daily routine to a serious medical and legal decision.
I love that. To wrap up our deep dive today, we have navigated from the ancient allium fields of Egypt to the heavily spiked tubs of modern pre-workout. And we've seen that while a very select few supplements do offer proven mechanistic benefits for specific high-level athletic situations, the industry at large is a lightly regulated landscape fraught with heavy metals, hidden steroids, and toxic megadoses.
History shows we have always been desperate for a magic pill. But human biology remains stubbornly complex. True physical resilience takes time, and you simply cannot isolate wellness into a single, profitable compound.
Your long-term health and the health of the young athletes in your life relies on that boring, unglamorous foundation of whole foods, smart training, and patience. It does not rely on the latest biohacking trend being pushed on social media.
Exactly.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. Right now, this massive supplement industry is capitalizing on our modern anxieties. They exploit the very real fact that our highly processed food quality is deteriorating and our soil is depleting.
That's very true.
So what if the ultimate biohack of the future isn't finding the perfect third-party tested contaminant-free pill? What if the real biohack is radically redesigning our agricultural and food systems from the ground up so that the food we eat is so inherently nutrient-dense, the entire concept of a supplement becomes completely obsolete? Think about that next time you see that wall of wellness. Thanks for joining us.